everyone needs to improve moving forward, and this holds especially true in boxing, where you could get a bit predictable. Anthony Joshua teamed up with Robert Garcia, and it proved fruitful. Now the question is, will he stay with his trainer? In this video, we'll be taking a look at what Robert Garcia has to say about Anthony Joshua, so stay tuned. First up, Robert Garcia gives his opinion on Anthony Joshua's match. Robert Garcia, who Anthony Joshua hired to help him win his rematch with Oleksandr Usyk, gave his opinion about how the boxer performed in the match. Anthony's skills are more refined, and his presence in the ring has skyrocketed ever since his last match, which he lost. But if the recent events are anything to go by, the boxer was still found lacking. Of course, no trainer is perfect, and it seemed like Robert missed a small thing or two that, no matter how trivial, could have turned the tide. In fact, he nearly did win, and the match was surprisingly close, seeing the difference in skill between the two opponents up until recently. Robert said Anthony should have applied the pressure he did in the 9th round a little bit earlier. He'd nearly won due to the punches he threw in that round, but according to his trainer, had he done the same 2 or 3 rounds earlier, there's a big chance that the results the world is seeing right now would be vastly different. He also pointed out that a lot of the time, Anthony just used his jabs to keep his opponent at a distance rather than throw a solid one to try and take him down, which didn't work in his favor. The last 3 rounds defined the fight's outcome. In the 9th round, he was set to win, and even before then, he was doing good enough. But by the 10th round, they'd basically already lost. Second, Anthony Joshua showed great improvement in the Usyk match. Ukraine's Oleksandr Usyk had to endure incredible pressure from Anthony Joshua from Britain, who delivered a much improved performance from their first fight in September. Last year, Usyk outpointed Joshua in London after just 2 pro fights in the heavyweight division. The former undisputed champion down at cruiserweight proved himself to be one of the best fighters in the world pound for pound today. A rematch was immediately sought by Joshua to regain his place as a top-tier heavyweight. To win this fight, he even brought in a new trainer, Robert Garcia, to join Angel Fernandez in his corner and devoted himself to fixing the mistakes he made in his first fight. Before meeting Usyk, Joshua had lost once before against Andy Ruiz, but he avenged himself on his first visit to Saudi Arabia in 2019. He was fighting to become a 3-time heavyweight champion and was aware that his legacy depended on his victory tonight. Before this championship clash, both fighters were under intense pressure. The fight was closely contested in the first 6 rounds. Joshua started to break through in the 9th round. He drove Usyk into a corner and kept up the pressure. In the next round, Usyk changed the fight again and was whipping shots into Joshua as the 10th round ended. He finished strongly and deservedly got the win. Still, the decision was closer than expected. Next up, if Robert continues as a trainer, Anthony will go to California for training camp. The fights were fought and done with, and while it was a loss that Anthony took hard, everyone knows that it was the best he'd fought in some time, and coming so close to winning against an opponent like Usyk is proof enough of that. So the question remains, will the boxer continue training with Robert Garcia, or will he take this as a failed experiment and move on with the things he's already learned from him? If the answer is the former, then California will probably see more of the boxer. To train him for his fight against Usyk, Robert spent time away from his home and work in the UK, but it doesn't seem like he's eager for a repeat. He said that if the boxer wanted to work with him, the best way was for AJ to come train in his gym in California at least 7 to 8 weeks before the fight, and that was all he needed for a good training camp. Robert also mentioned how the boxer always trained alone and said that he needed to compete more with other fighters. Even if they were at the same gym, he just needed to fight, and it'd benefit him greatly. Robert told him that since you have to be better than them, they will want to be better than you. It was an exercise of mutual benefit and would work for everyone involved. Anthony still has to make a final decision, but his team seems satisfied with the offer. Finally, why Robert may not train Anthony. Whether Anthony will train with Robert remains to be seen, but at least one thing's for sure, he's left his mark on the former boxer. Even with the recent loss, he's adamant that his student will make a successful comeback with or without his training. Robert was criticized for how he talked about Anthony and the match, but the former boxer immediately said that the accusations were false and he'd never do that to a fighter. The translation from Spanish to English wasn't great, and that made his words sound much harsher than they actually were. Still, saying Anthony was already beaten by the 10th round, not because he couldn't fight back, but because he was mentally defeated, seems like a pretty harsh thing to say, and may be exactly why he may not return as his trainer. As British light heavyweight star Dan Aziz said, there are some things that just aren't said to the public, but instead are a part of lessons and training delivered behind closed doors. Being essentially told that you're mentally weak by a trainer you put your trust in and trained with for weeks is a big enough thing to force a move onto a better one. At least it seems like the former boxer still believes that Anthony will bounce back after the recent loss, which is also a big thing seeing as many people have lost their hope in him after he lost the 3rd of his last 5 fights. Robert said he believes Anthony will one day become a force to be reckoned with in the heavyweight division, but whether he himself will be there for the presumed journey is unknown. Now, in other news. First, Jake Paul and Anderson Silva to have a match. It was reported by TMZ on Tuesday that Jake Paul is about to face Anderson Anderson Silva, a longtime UFC middleweight champion and MMA legend, in the ring in October. Currently, no location has been determined. Reportedly, the bout will take place on the 29th of October. MMA Fighting's Guilherme Cruz reached out to sources with knowledge of the matchup, and they confirmed that the bout is in the works. Most Valuable Promotions, responsible for promoting Jake, tweeted on Tuesday that his next fight will be announced next week, but they didn't release the date or an opponent. Paul hasn't had a fight since December when he won his rematch against Tyrone Woodley, former UFC welterweight champion. It was through a 6th-round KO. 47-year-old Silva will be making his first appearance in September 2021. He's 2-0 since his return to the sport, with a first-round knockout win over fellow MMA veteran Tito Ortiz in his most recent outing. Second, Joseph Parker talks about changing motivations as heavyweight champion. Joseph Parker revealed that at the peak of his career in boxing, he was working for the benefit of others. He became the WBO World Heavyweight Champion in December 2016 by defeating Andrew Ruiz on home soil in Auckland, New Zealand, and winning the title left by TYSON FURY through a tight points decision. The 30-year-old will take on Joe Joyce in a huge Manchester blockbuster on 24th September. 6 years ago, in what should have been a time of great fulfillment for Parker, he struggled with the feelings of something missing. When he became a father to Elizabeth, he realized his own dissatisfaction. He said that he wasn't boxing for himself. Parker was doing it for his father and coach, but now that he has his own family, he is a lot more motivated because he wants to do it for himself and his family. Finally, fans are worried after seeing Mike Tyson in a wheelchair. People were immediately alarmed about former boxer Mike Tyson's health condition after some photos of him in a wheelchair surfaced. It was later announced that Tyson has a sciatic condition that affects his walking. Tyson himself came out to silence the rumors, saying that he feels great. In an interview with Newsmax TV, he said that he has sciatica, and it comes from time to time. When it flares up, he can't even talk, but luckily, it's the only health problem he has, and he's splendid now. TMZ also said that he wasn't dealing with anything serious outside of the sciatica attack, which is an occupational hazard for an athlete like him. That's a wrap for this video. What do you think about Anthony Joshua's improvement? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.